Hey, everybody, and welcome to another Market Shift Q3 webinar that we have going on. This is our second live video that we have in this series, the third one overall in the whole series. Today, we're going to be talking about all things marketing and sharing updates on the new resources that we have available for you in the Market Shift portal on D&H.com and D&H.ca. And we're here to talk about marketing, and you're in the right. Ready for take two.
There is no take two, Ed. It's all live.
I know, right? Yeah. Hopefully people are laughing at that part of it. So if you're here to talk marketing, you're in the right place.
Ed reads everything on the teleprompter, guys. Everything you put there, he reads.
If only that was true. Anyway, I'm Ed Hidden, Senior Marketing Manager, Marketing Solutions at Digital Media. With me today is David, Senior Marketing Manager, David Labagh, Senior Marketing Manager of Marketing Communications. So Dave, since I flubbed up the very beginning of the intro, why don't we have you go ahead and set today's agenda for us?
Yeah, let's see if I can flub up today's agenda. So, Ed, really great to be back for a second live webinar in this series. Excited to go over a lot of new stuff today. So first, we're going to start out with some Market Shift web portal updates. So this is dnh.com/marketshift, or if you're a Canadian partner, it's dnh.ca/marketshift. And we're going to talk about the new campaign kits and resources that we have for you that can assist you and your marketing efforts and your go-to-market strategies. After we go through what's new and also a couple of resources that we have that are coming up, we're going to get into the meat of our conversation today, which is covering a number of topics that are focused on how you can become an agile, nimble, and scrappy marketer, making the most of what you have, whether it's budget, skill set, bandwidth, or other resources. So we're going to talk through why it's important to brand your business effectively. We're going to talk about defining goals for marketing campaigns and right-sizing expectations for those campaigns within your company. Then we're also going to kind of go into maximizing the marketing budget. So we're going to talk about free tools or low-cost tools that you can start to utilize that could create more opportunities for you, and one of them being social media. And yes, we will be talking AI a little bit today. And that's going to be our last topic, is digging into AI and how AI can become a marketer's friend, but that's not going to be a save for a marketer. It's a tool to help, but we're going to get into why it's not going to solve everything for you. And then, of course, if you have questions at all during this presentation, drop them in the Q&A module within the environment that you're in right now. We may be answering questions on the fly as we're going through the conversation, or we may be saving some of the questions for at the end of the conversation when we host a live Q&A or Ask Me Anything segment. So if you have those questions, drop them in the chat or drop them in the Q&A, and we'll get to them at some point throughout this webinar.
Very cool. Yeah, so as we're moving forward, one of the things that we were going to talk about is the Market Shift web portal. So that is the Market Shift portal that we have on D&H.com and D&H.ca. You can get to both of those by going www.dnh.com/marketshift or www.dnh.ca/marketshift. And that'll get you to the section. And we have page navigation that gives you a number of different categories that are in there. The ones that we're referring to are on the customizable marketing resources area. So those are the kits and the campaign kits and some of the templates that we've put out there. There's a list of all of the ones that we have created so far, as well as new ones. And the new ones that we have that are out are, we have a security as a service toolkit, and that is a pretty robust toolkit that it talks about marketing your integrated approach to like cybersecurity and how you can deliver scalable solutions that protect sensitive data and mitigate threats. And that one is a pretty robust one. It has a number of different pieces of collateral inside of it. Another one very similar to that is the managed services. And that showcases how you can streamline operations, excuse me, enhance efficiency, and ensure reliable IT infrastructure management. As you download that one and take a look at it, there's a number of marketing collateral pieces that are within there. There's emails, there are sales guides. There's also a conversation guide, and those can be very helpful for how you open that conversation and dialogue with your clients to be able to introduce some of these solutions to them. So lots of very valuable pieces that are inside of that. One of our smaller toolkits compared to the other two that I just mentioned is the Windows Autopilot. It's a little more simplistic because it's a more focused topic as compared to security as a service or managed services. This one really talks about demonstrating the value, time, and cost savings of using Microsoft Autopilot for deploying devices easily and quickly. So that one kind of cuts right to some of those assets that you can go ahead and utilize and introduce this solution to your customers. Coming soon, we have a number of pieces that we're working on, kits that we're working on for, they're focused on the Windows 11 device refresh and AI. Once again, it's going to be the buzzword that we're going to be talking about through a lot of this stuff. We have a Windows 11 device refresh campaign kit that's going to talk about Windows 11 devices, Copilot, and the new Copilot Plus PCs. There's a Dell Windows 11 AI PC campaign kit that's going to introduce the new Dell Latitude series of AI PCs and the Copilot Plus PCs that will be available for your clients. And probably one of the bigger ones that's in the pipeline right now is an AI ebook with an AI campaign kit, and that's going to be driven by an end user or an end client playbook on the value of AI in their business, along with potential benefits, risks, and use case scenarios. And you'll see as we're going through some of this discussion today that there's going to be a lot of things around that AI discussion that's not just on the compute side. There's a lot that's involved with the data and the data governance, what you put into the system, what comes out of it, and how any of those AI systems manage that. So that's going to be very, very helpful. One of the other sections I also want to highlight is to not forget about the vendor marketing resources and assets section that we have on that site. Those are in a separate subpage from these customizable toolkits, and they have all kinds of information in there from a number of different manufacturers that can take you out to either manufacturer resources for specific manufacturer information or a deeper topic. So there's a wealth of material out there for you to get used to and get accustomed to on the MarketShift side of D&H.
And I think it's worth reminding, also saying that all of this stuff is totally customizable for your business, and we have built-in areas to all of the assets that we've created, and the vendors have built-in areas for the assets that we have hosted, where you can go in and insert your brand details, your contact details, so it is customized for your business and not just at a generic level.
That's true. Yeah, that's really great information for there. And then, of course, the other piece of resources as well is a reminder to watch last quarter's webinar on knowing your audience. That's available in the training and resources tab on the MarketShift site. And that's where you can get to that plus other additional resources as well. But yeah, that will kind of help facilitate for this conversation where we talked about knowing your audience last time. Now, this time we're going to be talking about more about agile, nimble, scrappy marketing and making the most of that budget, bandwidth, and skill set. And it feels like that's a way that, you know, I've always done with a lot of my own personal marketing that I've done. And I know that we've been very focused with being agile with a lot of the stuff we do with D&H. To set it up for our people that are following us, what would it mean to them to be an agile, nimble, scrappy marketer?
Yeah, it's really good that we're going to define this up front. So we'll start off by saying that SMBs and our customers, our partners, wear many hats. I can guarantee that many of the people who are in attendance of this webinar today, they could be considered marketers, but they may be running their own business, or they may also be leading the sales charge, or they may be in charge of operations or a number of other things. You all are busy, and marketing is sometimes the last thing on your list. So it's important to remember that not everybody or every business has a dedicated marketer, and you guys aren't all dedicated marketers for your companies. Second, I want to note a common misconception that marketers are not just creatives that play with Photoshop and design graphics all day. And marketers actually have to balance that left and right brain of theirs between the creative production, where we are playing with Photoshop a lot or designing a website, with the creative strategy, which is the science behind it. It's the connective tissue behind why we're doing certain things creatively. So the strategy informs the creative production. So when it comes to being agile, nimble, and a scrappy marketer, I love that term, a scrappy marketer. It's really making the most of what you've got. We all have varying budgets. We all have varying levels of bandwidth and time, especially if we're wearing many hats. We all have varying skill sets. And that's the same with us here at D&H, with Ed and I. We are fighting with budgets and bandwidth and skill sets all of the time, just from our own personal capacities. So we do this every day with the marketing tools and solutions that we have in place. And many of them can be limited in capabilities. We all have big ideas of what we want to accomplish, but there's never going to be a one size fits all solution to what we can do from a marketing perspective. And you can do what we do. You can do the same thing that we're doing by just trying to make the most out of those platforms and tools that you have. We won't mention any providers that we use today, but I'll say that Ed and I are constantly finding ways to manipulate systems and platforms, sometimes people on the back end, and their data to enhance our marketing. It's not always pretty. It's not always something that's easy to replicate, but you'd be surprised with how often you can make things work when you're thinking right and left brain, when you're thinking creatively and strategically at the same time. And then skill set. We will be the first to admit that we do not know everything. And we are actually very thankful that you all showed up today and you're relying on us as marketing experts. But the big disclaimer here is that we don't know everything, and neither do you. And that's why you're here today. But where you can become scrappy and get very creative and agile and nimble is the fact that you can take marketing concepts and you can apply them to what you do know. And what you do know is your business and your customers. So if you start there with all of your plans, you start with how intimately you know your business and your audience, going back to that webinar that we had a couple of months ago, knowing your audience, that will guide the rest of your marketing efforts. And actually, it's going to make it easier because from there, you can identify the tools that you might need. You can identify the functionality that you may need to try to find. You can identify a number of other things to make a strategy or a marketing plan work. As far as identifying the right tools go, there are paid and free tools, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. Ed is the marketing technology guru, and he's going to have a lot of advice for you all on this call to help you identify those platforms. And those platforms and those tools will sometimes even include AI or automation. So it's all going to come down to what you're trying to accomplish, what your business model is, and who your audience is and how they engage with you. So we'll talk more about identifying those, but it's getting your feet wet with the free versions first before you start to pay for anything. You don't need to dive in and get a $40,000 contract on a platform or a piece of software that you're not sure is going to definitely help your business. You can start with a free version and properly vet, what you want and how it's going to work for you before you spend a ton of money to subscribe to a service. And then finally, the one thing that I want to mention here is when you're truly becoming a scrappy marketer, it does not mean that you are creating these elaborate marketing campaigns. In fact, it's probably the opposite. So when I think of becoming an agile, nimble, and scrappy marketer, I'm thinking of somebody who keeps it so simple that they're focused on the individual task or goal that they're trying to accomplish with their marketing, and they keep that plan simple to accomplish that goal. And they don't try to boil the ocean, and I love that analogy. Don't try to boil the ocean, but they try to focus on the small incremental wins, the small incremental improvements by using sometimes just the basic functionality and maximizing that before you try anything crazier. It's easy to overcomplicate things in marketing and in sales and in business and in everywhere else, but specifically marketing, especially for creatives who have big pie in the sky ideas. So I would encourage you that as you're becoming a scrappy marketer, as you're trying to make things work with what you have based on budget, bandwidth, and skill set, that you're focusing on those basics and you're focusing on doing the core marketing functions well. Do it correctly, measure success, continue to refine and tweak and change things as you go. Once you find out what's successful or not, but boiling it down to basics and keeping it at basics initially, that's going to be most of what you need as a marketer to begin with. And then you can create and expand from there as you need it. So yeah, when it talks about, or when we talk about becoming agile and nimble and scrappy, that's what we're talking about. It's keeping it simple. It's focusing on the small wins here and making the most of what you've got. But Ed, when we're talking in terms of making the most of what you've got, and we're talking in terms of being scrappy with a company's marketing, what's the first step in your mind when you're starting from scratch with marketing? Like, where do you go as a marketer? Say you're starting from level 1 or level 0, or you're not as mature in marketing.
And actually, that's probably where I would say is it's probably more of the business that's not as mature where it comes to marketing. If we say from scratch or level 0, the big thing that most people suggest to start with is branding your business. And with branding your business, everyone tends to think that's my logo, that's my tagline, that's my colors, and that's the end of it. And that's really only a small sliver of what it means to brand your business. So as I say, most of us are probably past that initial one that we have on the call with us today. All of you have an established business. You have a bit of a good look and feel, and you understand everything that's you. However, when you brand or evangelize your brand, it goes well beyond that logo and that tagline. It goes to every piece of material that touches your clients that you work with. It's the invoices, it's the quotes that go out. It is any kind of marketing material, whether it's an email or a direct mail, or it's a video that you put together that goes out to social. The big thing is it should all have that same look and feel. So it's more than just a visual look. It's also about how you're talking about your business, and making sure that you have a unified communication across all of those different touch points that you have with your clients. That's really what branding your business is. And we'll come back to this a little bit later. But it's really important because when you brand your business, it gives you that instant recognizability so that the moment somebody touches something, they know who they are interacting with. You're past the introduction at that point. You're no longer saying, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm with this. And you're not trying to set them up on why to interact with you. They know that they're already interacting with you, and they're recognizing that communication. They're ready. You're past the front door of it, and it gets them closer to that ready to buy. And the more that they know and recognize and see that unified communication when they're ready to buy, they tend to think of you more than either your competitors or the manufacturers of the technology that you're trying to offer to them. The big thing is taking and doing all of that for your business so that you can help them understand the things that you do, offer, and put you right at that top of mind for them. So some of the things that you want to do is you want to be defining your goals and kind of right size those expectations that you want to get with those marketing campaigns. Whether that's going to be something you're going to do through email, through social, if it could be a call out campaign, it could be leave behinds from meetings. The big thing is figuring out what you want to have happen from the thing that you're looking at doing. And that's going to help you set up what tools you're going to need to effectively put this campaign into motion. Like if you're going to be mostly focused face-to-face and personal interactions, then maybe social media is a good marketing and maybe email is a little more impersonal. It's more about finding that message that works for the way that you want to communicate your business to the people that you're trying to reach. So as we're talking about tools, so how would you go, Dave, about identifying different marketing tools and resources that you need to effectively execute and measure those campaigns?
Yeah, so this is where you and I are going to differ with our approach a little bit, Ed.
A little bit.
Yeah, so Ed and I are very complementary. Ed is definitely the systems guy, the platforms guy, and he can connect everything together in the background, and he wants to know how things work. Where I might be more the conceptual before things get to production guy, where I'm kind of thinking through all of the details up front, sometimes before they get to Ed, but it's stuff that's important that Ed should know. So when I'm thinking, especially in terms of our partners. Uh, I'm thinking start with free resources, start with what you have available to you, and go from there. And start with whatever's in your marketing stack already. So first of all, when we're talking free resources, and then we're talking available experts, think of us. I mean, some of our branding may have worked today, whether or not we're good at the branding that we have for this or not. That's all subjective, but it got you to this webinar today for Market Shift. And so that means that you find some legitimacy in D&H and the Market Shift brand in us being experts and knowing what we're talking about. So start here with Market Shift and really use Market Shift to help you start with the basics. And when I say that, I'm saying start with the Market Shift campaign kit, some resources that Ed talked about earlier. We have marketing templates, we have the conversation guides, we have social posts, we have emails, all free that you can use and customize for your business. It's a light lift for you, and it's it's easy for you to get that out the door quickly. So you have those resources that are available from people like D&H Market Shift and from manufacturer partners like Microsoft and HP and Lenovo and Dell and HPE. They're all available. And again, market shift to dnh.com/market shift and dnh.ca/market shift. I'm mixing up email aliases with web URLs.
It's all good.
We can tell it's a Monday. Thank you. And then the next thing, take advantage of experts. So if you're the expert marketer in your company, find expert marketers outside of your company to run things through or to get new perspective from. Use us as marketing experts. Market shift at dnh.com. We're not going to confuse email aliases with web URLs that time. But you can reach out to Ed and I and our team of expert marketers in-house here because we know how you guys operate as businesses. And we take that consultative approach to make sure that we're doing what's right for you and your business. It's worth noting here that marketing is not and will never be a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. So everything you hear from all marketers, take them all with a grain of salt, including what you hear from us. And the reason why is that what works for them may not work for you. And that's something that you're going to have to keep in mind. We could go out as a distribution company and look at a company like Nike and say, Nike, oh, that's really cool, that campaign they had. And then we could try to replicate that campaign within the distribution channel in the IT industry, could fall completely flat. Two different audiences, two different segments, different customer bases, different ways that you're communicating. There's just a lot. So you've got to take everything with a grain of salt. You got to take everything with a perspective that you're looking at this from a conceptual level and how you want to apply it to your business. So I'm going to give a couple of examples here. So one, Ed and I have been lucky enough to go to a conference called B2B Marketing Exchange. If you can convince your boss or you are the boss and you want to spend a couple days on marketing, I would highly encourage you to check out B2B Marketing Exchange. It's exactly what the name of the event is. It's all about B2B marketing, and it's just B2B marketers from all throughout the country and the world that show up, and they just geek out on marketing all week. I'll admit the first time we attended it, I had imposter syndrome because you're going to these sessions where people are just talking about these huge marketing concepts. You're like, this makes no sense for our business. How can we do this? Could we try this? Would that even work? And they sound like experts, and they sound like they're doing way more than we could ever do. But once we kind of got it through our heads, like, hey, we just need to take the idea and bring it back to our business and see how we can apply the concept. We got a ton out of that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things too, where it's like, even if we're not going to use the same technology stack that some of the people that are presenting are showing, there are principles and pieces of it that you can take and apply to what you're actively using too.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to give two specific examples of speakers that we've heard at B2B Marketing Exchange. One of them that we've actually used on the Thread Technology Conference main stage before. So I'll start with Jay Baer. Jay focuses on customer experience. You may have seen some of his work around talk triggers or speed to execution or speed to response with partners. So talk triggers for Jay. You want to make sure that when you meet a customer that, again, the branding's on, but that you have something that immediately sparks a conversation. For Jay, he wears funny suits everywhere he goes with loud patterns and loud colors, and that gets the conversation going. When he did his talk on speed to response with customers, he wrote a book about it. But you can't tell people who are strapped for time and trying to talk to people who are strapped for time to read a big book. So he put it in a book about this big and made it super short.
I was looking to see if I have mine here to put on camera. It is literally, it's about like yay big.
Yeah. So you take these concepts of speed to execution and simplifying how you're speaking to people, or you take the concept of creating a talk trigger, finding a way to make your business recognizable and something that's talked about as a brand, and you apply them to your business. Another one that we really loved, Marcus Sheridan. His concept was they ask, you answer. And it was a simple concept where you wanted to be the source where everybody comes to for questions. Excuse me, I'm talking too much. Marketers don't talk a lot, so I have to cough a lot. So Marcus Sheridan, they ask, you answer. And he wants you to create a business where people come to you for answers, regardless of whether or not it's going to result in a revenue opportunity for you. The whole point of that is that if they ask you a question and you answer, it builds trust. When it builds trust, it's part of branding. If you're branded as a trustworthy company, when they're ready to buy, they're coming back to you. So there are these marketing concepts, customer loyalty, branding, speed to responses and customer service that you can take back and then figure out how they apply to your business. So again, it's not one size fits all. It's taking these ideas and going from there. So
actually, can I interject real quick with that?
Absolutely.
So I know that you said like the they ask you answer, building that trust through questions. One of the things that struck in my mind through Marcus's piece was that sometimes Marcus's businesses weren't the answer to the question that they were looking for.
Yep.
And it didn't matter. The point was about building the trust. And if you have the trust, that establishes your brand a little bit more. That also gives you that that ability to come back to it later at a different point. Exactly. And the other thing I was going to mention too is we had a question from someone that was asking about where we had seen these people, and the name of the conference that we went to is called B2B Marketing Exchange. So I just want to kind of add that in there because we did have that question with people who liked what we were saying but wanted to know where to go for those.
Yeah. No, thank you. I appreciate you bringing that up. So, all right, we talked about my side of things. We're talking about using these free tools. Let's get to your side of things, Ed, with systems. So when you're getting into the actual tools that you want to get in place, knowing that some may have marketing tools in place already, some may be starting at the ground level and trying to build a marketing stack for there, how would you decide what to use? And how would you decide, I guess, researching and then implementing the solutions into a marketing stack?
Sure. Yeah. And actually, it goes back to a lot of the stuff that we've already talked about is to start small and kind of migrate from there. So one of the first steps I would say is you want to kind of audit what you have in place. You may have social tools on your phone that you're using for your business or your computer. You might have a CRM. You may have an email package that's part of it. the big thing would be to kind of take stock of everything that you have available at your fingertips before going and investing in a much bigger solution or something that's costlier. You might be thinking, oh, I need this package to do this full automation email and social campaign. But if that's where back we talked about the steps of evaluating the needs that you have, if those aren't the right vehicles for you to be utilizing, then you don't want to invest in that type of a platform. So definitely keep it small, audit what you have and make the most of it already. So if you have marketing email capabilities within your CRM, try to leverage that first before adding new options on top of that. The same would be with social media. Some people decide, oh, I need to get this application that manages my calendar and my topics and, does advocacy within the company and things like that. But if that's not right for you, then you don't want to go that route. You want to stick with maybe the native application tools in either your Facebooks or LinkedIn or other social networks that you might be a part of. Many of those are starting to bring in some of those advanced features that are in some of those manager programs to bring them straight into those as well. So not only look at what you have internally that's available, take a look at what's available externally that you can leverage as well. The big one I would say is, go ahead, Dave.
And Ed, I think it's really important here as you're talking about keeping the platform simple. Same thing goes with the content. So I'll add my side of things here too. If you have a platform in place already, or you have a social handle that you're using, or you have an email marketing tool that you have, the next step is just to use it. Just use it once a month, once a week, once every couple of days, and grow from there. You don't have to maximize all of the functionality within it right away. You just have to use it and start getting the message out.
Yeah, that's one of the things we talked about, I think, in our first series. We had said about, one of the big messages is repetition. Get that message out there often and repeat it. Maybe someone doesn't see it the first time. Maybe it's a second, third, fourth viewing of that message before it becomes something that's very important. The fact that you're getting it out there multiple times and being seen helps reinforce maybe I do need, whatever service that, that we're talking about. But when you get to the point that you want to grow and add on to and augment the platforms that you have, it's really important to go ahead and evaluate that platform and make sure that it's the right platform for you, your business, your message, and the way that you want to work. So there's a number of different ways that you could go about doing that. And again, simple to big, you could look at it as simply like you would do consumer comparison shopping. You go to your search engine and you can search in and look and see what sorts of information or what companies are coming to the top, what reviews are coming to the top. And those are probably some of the ones that you want to consider evaluating to see that it fits your needs. Some of the other ones I tend to think of is like a large user base. And sometimes that's good. Sometimes it could also be bad as well. But for me, that usually says that this is a more trusted resource and continues to have that sort of the trusted use of that platform. It's going to get more development in a system that probably has fewer users. It's going to grow quicker and build with you. Is it going to be supported? Those sorts of things are important when you're looking at that size of a customer base. And then, of course, data security and compliance. That's going to be critical as well. If you're a business that deals with a lot of medical or healthcare ones, security and data compliance is going to be huge for what you're working on. If it's not that business, it's still a very important topic that you want to look at as you're going to evaluate stuff, whether it's how companies will handle data breaches, how well are they protecting their data, different things like that are some things that you're going to want to look at. And it's important to focus it based on your industry, because your industry may have, or your client's industry may have specific requirements as you're going through some of this. And of course, don't forget social media. You know, there's a lot of people that are out there on those. Sometimes it's a little harder to reach those audiences in a B2B situation, but there are definitely some networks that are a little bit more focused towards that. Um, and, you know, you can, like we said, you can either use managers that will help you manage your calendar, plan, and migrate stuff out, or you can go ahead and use those native tools within those platforms to help get that message out. It's usually one of the most inexpensive forms of marketing that you can do to reach your audience, but it can also be one of the more time consuming ones as well, as you're trying
Mhm.
to finesse that message and make sure that you're speaking to the people that you want to speak to. So that one's a very helpful one, but also you want to have some attention to it as well. Of course, we can't forget artificial intelligence. Many of these platforms are starting to integrate some of those, and then there are, you can use AI tools to help generate content as we get into those.
Mhm.
But there's gotchas. So like I know Dave, your team has worked a bit with you and your team have worked a bit with some of the AI tools that are out there.
Yeah.
How do you? What's been your experience that you found, and like can you effectively use that to like save time, money, and effort? That effort one I think is probably the big key in
Yes.
there.
Yeah, yeah, very much. So, for context, and actually, I'm just going to add a disclaimer here. I still don't know if you guys can hear it, but there's a renovation going on in my bathroom directly across the hall from me. So, if you're hearing any ungodly sounds coming through the microphone, that's what it is. Anyway, I'm just going to work through this, and we're going to talk about AI regardless of the noise. Uh, so, yes, my team's a very small team. We handle the content for all of the marketing at D&H. That's not just marketing to our partners, but it's also internal marketing, and it's also our agency services, and it's also all of these custom projects. So I have a team of 6 people, 5 people, sometimes I can't count, 6 people, and it's a lot for that team to manage. So we've been using some AI tools, and I'm going to specifically talk from the content and strategy development side of things. Ed, I'll let you handle the image stuff and everything beyond that. But when we're talking content and saving time, of course we have to talk about ChatGPT. So that's number one. That is on the lips of everybody here. Everybody's wondering, well, how can ChatGPT help my company? How can that make things easier for me? How is that going to solve my problems and save time for me? Uh, well, ChatGPT is pretty awesome. You throw a prompt, or you write a prompt to it, and you ask it to return something, and it returns it like that, and you're good. Of course, there are intricacies around with how you prompt something like ChatGPT, and the fact that it's just a large language model solution. It is just for the world to use, and what you are getting from it is only as good as the data that's being pulled into it. So that tool doesn't necessarily know your business, but it knows a lot of other businesses, and it's going to try to give you suggestions or solutions on content or whatever you're prompting it for that might work for you. Same thing with something like Microsoft Copilot. So that's going to become a bigger and bigger tool for marketers like you and also for your clients. And that's from a content development standpoint, that's from a Q&A standpoint, that's from a branding standpoint. So you could type in something to Microsoft Copilot like, write me an email on Windows 11 devices and why my clients need to upgrade before Windows 10 reaches end of support in October 5. And it's going to be able to spit out an email with a very organized structure of the or of content that the client is wanting. Great. Another issue there is, again, just like ChatGPT, it's the large language model, and it's only as good as what's put into that large language model and how much it's learning. Both of those, Copilot for 365 and ChatGPT, you also need to be very aware of potential security risks. We'll go into that a little bit later, and I'm going to save this for after Ed goes over his platform from a AI perspective. But there are security risks with putting proprietary information into those, which could cause concerns. So We don't actually use either one of those from a marketing perspective. Uh, and while we're working on rolling out Copilot to our company over the coming months, our security team is doing a lot in the background to make sure that we are not going to run any issues with proprietary information being loaded up into a chat GPT or a Microsoft Copilot. Because once you do that, it's available to the public. It's part of that large language model at that point. And if somebody wants to find it and exploit it, they can. So what we do is we use a tool called Jasper AI. Jasper AI is actually built on the Chat GPT structure, the engine, and it's a dedicated instance of a large language model AI tool where the prompts that we upload, the content that we upload, uh, goes into Jasper, but it's fully secure for D&H and for us. And it actually learns as we go, and it learns as we upload more content and as we upload resources. And so it can learn our voice, it can learn our audiences. We can sit here and define what an MSP is or what a VAR is and um, the different intricacies in the markets, or we can define what a specific vertical market is. And then we can say, hey, use this piece of content or this link or this PDF to write an email to this audience for this vertical market about X, Y, and Z. And it'll do it. And it's pretty stinking awesome. Um, I will say, and I'm going to go back to our webinar from last quarter. Um, AI tools do not know your audience. AI tools do not know your business. So, yes, a Copilot or a ChatGPT or a Jasper AI can provide you with a quick way to turn around content and develop it. Um, but at the end of the day, you still have to go back and check it. And you still have to make sure that it's speaking to your audience correctly. And you still have to fact check it to make sure that it didn't pull something that was fake or that was misleading from the large language model data that's pulling from. We talked about this last time too. You want your content to sound like you are a human talking to another human, not a humanoid talking to a human. People will see through that right away. In fact, I'm sure that you guys have seen through our marketing right away what it just doesn't quite hit the mark. So you've always got to be careful of that, of knowing your audience and making sure that you're revising it. Final thing that I'm going to talk about from a content perspective, and this is one of the coolest things ever that I think Jasper AI and these tools can do. We can upload a creative brief. So if we have a strategic brief that outlines everything for a campaign, we can say, hey, here's the creative brief, create content for an entire campaign. And it'll spit out landing page content, blog post content, email content, social post content, and just content for everything under the sun. And while we still have to go back and edit and review and refine it, it's taking 90% of the legwork out of the equation and making life a lot simpler. So if you can use an AI tool like that, again, being mindful of security, that could save you a ton of time. But Ed, that's enough of me using words to talk about generating words through AI. So I'm gonna hand this off to you, and I'm gonna let you talk about the fun stuff where it comes to like a creative perspective. So what AI tools are you seeing today or even using today that could help marketers?
Well, and that's kind of like the interesting thing is when people talk about generative AI, there are a number of different types of generative AI. There's the word generation that you've just talked about. There's also creative art generation. There are a number of companies that are out there that are building these large language models, visual language models as they're putting these things together. And they work very similar to, they probably actually work on a little less input than you would think on the content side of things in terms of the user input, where you're generating, uh, sometimes if you're writing out whatever the specifics are of a message that you want to get words out of, you probably have to add more words than you would need to get out of the system, where the art generators tend to be a little bit more of like a simplistic prompt. And that's where the using that becomes really important, because you want to be able to describe what you are trying to accomplish, um, as robustly as possible with enough detail to be able to get to what you see in your head, but you also want to keep it succinct so you don't have a lot of detail that might confuse or be picked up and deliver maybe the wrong input back. And when I say the creative image generation, there's a number of different ways that you can approach that. There are some very free-form ones that are included within some of those popular Creative Suite applications that you're used to, where you can just type in something and it'll generate and it'll pop in. There's external resources that can do it as well. Some of them are getting really, really fun and creative. As we were talking about this, I showed Dave some examples of one that I was playing with some personal stuff where you would actually just sketch out kind of what you have in your head with stick figures and big blocky shapes and something that looks incredibly very simplistic. And then you put it in with a good word prompt and the AI generator can go, okay, he's looking for green grass, mountains with a bicycle and a guy riding it and, down a dirt path. And then it's like, okay, well, that can look a number of different ways. And then your sketch kind of helps define those composition parameters that maybe you need for it. That's one type of image generation. Another type of image generation that we're seeing is there are some design applications that you're seeing out there. And there's lots of them that are happening. You'll give it a rough input of what you're looking to do, whether it's a social post or it's you're looking to do a banner for a website. You already can feed your brand into these programs with your colors, your logo, some of your tone to it, and then it will go ahead and generate those banners and give you options and go, which of these were you looking at? I kind of looking at this. All right, is it better like this? And then you can kind of refine that down. Also, going back to the Copilot discussion that you were saying about, Dave, there is going to be some interesting design pieces that I've been hearing with that, and I'm sure there's going to be other AI. No, I got a dog that's going crazy upstairs. We got all the distractions going on today. Those closed AI networks, I think, are going to be the most interesting thing moving forward for businesses, because it does tend to focus its source material on the material that your business has built. So it starts to know the look and feel of your invoices, your PowerPoints, your emails, and all of those sorts of things go back to that first point that we opened up that meeting with that building your brand. These tools are going to be developing and become those sorts of things that kind of help you with that guide path, where if you're that lean organization and you're trying to do more of this independently and on your own, that piece is going to be very helpful for keeping you focused and getting to that concepting phase quicker.
Yeah. And I think it's worth, this is a good time to go back, now that we've kind of gone through both of our perspectives here, going back to the security risks and the pros and cons here. You've got to be aware of the security aspect of anything AI related, because of what you upload. If it's not a private instance for you, it's available to the public. So there is a risk associated with that, whether it's images or data or copyright issues. It could be a number of things. And it's better to be safe than sorry. So if you don't have somebody who's in charge of AI at your company from an IT organization perspective, we'd actually encourage you to go to our Success Path to AI series that we've been developing over the last couple of months, where recently we brought in our security training expert, Jessica Gutierrez, to talk about AI policies and how IT would implement an AI strategy into a company. So whether that's you're thinking in terms of your company or your client's company, she outlines a very good use case scenario, or a very good scenario for how you can roll that out from a corporate perspective. And then on top of that too, we also have guys like Josh Schaffner on our technical solutions team who dig into the security side of things and the potential risks associated with AI. So we would recommend you take a look at that series. And in fact, it's posted as a resource within the environment right now, or you can go to dnh.com/gobigAI and find a link to it there. And so, Ed, I think we want to leave a little bit of time open for any questions that attendees might have today. So I think maybe it's good that we wrap up our conversation here and use the next a couple of minutes to address any questions that our audience might have. Um, but also, let's do one more thing. For those of you who are here today, we talked a lot, and we talked a lot about stuff that we wanted to talk about. But at the end of the day, we want to talk about stuff and give you information and perspective that you want to hear. So if you're interested in hearing us cover a specific topic or having us bring on a guest speaker from within our marketing organization to cover a different topic, put that in the chat or put that in the Q&A for us right now. We'd love to get your feedback to know what we should cover next. Otherwise, Ed and I are just going to keep talking about marketing and bikes for the next couple of webinars until you guys get blue in the face. So, yeah.
And also, if they're watching this on demand, they can also email us directly at marketshift@dnh.com as well, too. So,
yeah, exactly. So, we'll give you a couple minutes. So, if you do have any questions, drop them in the Q&A. But I guess, Ed, while we're waiting for any potential questions, is there anything else that you wanted to dive back into with what we talked about today, or anything else in just the marketing world in general that you found interesting recently?
Yeah, I did want to touch real quickly on we talked about the security risks with AI, and there are certain copyright issues that you kind of want to look at as well. And it's not necessarily just for not just the contents or the text generated content side. It's also on that image creation side of things as well. You want to take a look at whatever those platforms that you're using. Sometimes they will go ahead and take that final result of what's been generated and roll that back into the large language model. So that way it continues to feed that information and expand on it. That goes to a couple different instances as well. There's the copyright information side of that you might be saying something or showing something that it hopefully has been cleansed to be copyright okay to be part of that. But the other side of it too is keep in mind that your export from those systems, as long as it's not a closed system, become available to other people as well. So as we opened up, we said about branding your business and individualizing and personalizing and making it look like you. One of the things that you want to watch when you're doing some of these is that you're not necessarily mimicking the look and feel that somebody else might be doing in the same business space. So it's more than just looking at the words and making sure that it makes sense and it's the right message that you were looking for as well. You also want to make sure that it stays on brand as well.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you went back to that. Yeah, while what is it? Imitation is the best form of flattery. Imitation could be flattering to a larger company, but it could also be an invitation for them to, slap a cease and desist on you or worse. So it's always better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other piece too is there's a lot of other AI. There's other AI that's not the content generation or the creative generation that we've talked about. There are other plenty of AI tools that will go through and evaluate and help you kind of move forward with whether it's data optimization or it's going through and cleaning up your CRM, or it's going ahead and maybe it's generating a schedule of this is when things look best. It's not always just here's the content, here's the picture. There's other AI tools that can help, ease through a number of other tasks.
Yeah. And hey, it looks like we did just get a question from Rodney just about whether or not we'll be increasing the amount of collateral similar to what we have for the marketing collateral on D&H.com. And Rodney, yes. So that's something that we're actively doing right now. And Ed had brought up a couple of the campaign kits that we're working to complete over the next couple of weeks for you. And they will be available at dnh.com/market+SHIFT. And this is going to be an ongoing thing. So we have vendors and manufacturer partners who come in and they want us to create something that's totally custom for you guys to use. So we'll be doing stuff specifically for those vendors. And one of those is going to be around Microsoft Copilot. And then some of the other stuff too is we will be expanding what we have on the AI front and expanding what we have around Windows 11 device refresh and everything in between. And any new technologies that come out, we're going to be developing those campaign kits and marketing collateral pieces for you. Um, that all can't happen at once. Again, we have a pretty small team that's handling a lot. And so they're doing their darn best to get you the resources that you guys are asking for or looking for. But yeah, we'll be expanding the content that's available there. So Rodney
And
and
I was also,
everybody else, go ahead.
yeah, I was also going to add on the end of that too, Dave. I know I mentioned at the top that we have a lot of topics that are already out there, things that we developed over the years. We built this big library of things. We do go back and we look through it, and we make sure that the content that's out there is still relevant, that the services are still relevant, the products are still relevant that you're seeing out there. In saying that, it's also part of our initiative that we go through, and if something is still valuable but out of date, we do an update to it and bring that back out as well. So I would also say is, we've asked for suggestions for different topics for the show. If you see that there's, a good initiative or resource or something like that you think would be a really worthy inclusion in that market shift, go ahead and send those to that market shift at dnh.com email alias. And we certainly, we're always trying to provide the best services and the best collateral and the best kits available for you guys. So, we've gotten some very good feedback from a number of our partners, and it helps us guide where we want to go and help provide things that are useful for you and your teams.
Yeah. All right, Ed, I think it's about time that we wrap up. But before I go into wrapping up with all the housekeeping stuff that we have to cover, I'll put you on the spot here. If you had one key takeaway that you want our partners on this call to remember from today, what would it be?
Mine would be, keep it simple and build and iterate as you grow with it, and don't try to boil the ocean. You kind of focus on one thing, test it out, see how it goes, and then that'll help it'll inform you whether you want to build that side of the business or that side of your marketing, or whether you want to add tools that are going to help augment that. So
awesome. And in the in terms of keeping it simple and what I want the takeaway to be, my answer is going to be ditto. And also reach out to MarketShift at D&H.com should you have any questions or need help with any of your marketing campaigns or creation or developing or strategy. We're here to help, and we would love to be an extension of your business. So thank you everyone for attending today. We really appreciate you all stopping by and listening to two passionate marketers speak today about getting a little bit scrappy, getting a little bit creative with what we're doing strategically with platforms and everything else in between. So if you are interested in watching this on demand or listening to this or sharing this with somebody on demand, it'll be available within 24 hours at the same link that you used or at the same link that you registered at. You can go back and watch it anytime. We do have another upcoming live webinar scheduled for the very beginning of December. We sandwiched it between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we're going to hope that we have people available. We're not sure what topic we're going to cover yet. So if you do have a suggestion, reach out to us or drop it in the chat before you log off for the day. And again, if you have any questions after this webinar related to this content or anything that's specific to your business and you think we might be able to help out, contact us at marketshift at dnh.com or visit dnh.com/marketshift or dnh.ca/marketshift to complete our inquiry form on the website, and we'll get in touch with you right away. Again, thanks for your time. Really glad that you all stopped by. Good luck getting scrappy with your marketing, and we'll see you at the next webinar.